really good. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. John Colombo.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And good morning, everybody. I appreciate the introduction. I don't know where you got that U.S. President thing. That was not supposed to be mentioned, but I don't mind, sharing with people that I have had the honor of doing that, speaking in front of 4 U.S. presidents. But they're not the ones you're thinking of, obviously. But, as we get started this morning, I just came up from Florida. So I hope our hearts and prayers are with all the people there. I was surprised I was able to get out. I was prepared to drive, and the planes were leaving. So sometimes all the news is not exactly what we hear on the news, so I was able to get out. I was 2 days ago sitting on the top of a roof with 4 other families watching the water go by. And one of them said, "It's just amazing." And I looked over and I said, what is so amazing? They said, "All this water." I said, "Yeah, it is amazing." They said, "But that's not what's the most amazing." They said, "Is that hat." And I said, the hat. And they said, "Look, there's a hat floating." And sure enough, there was a hat floating with the water right in front of the house. And I said, "What's so unusual about it?" And they said, "Watch. In just a moment, that hat's going to stop. Then it's going to come in a little bit, and then it's going to go against the water." And I watched, and about 10 seconds later, it did just that. The hat stopped, and then it began to go upstream against the water. And I said, "That is amazing." And somebody else on the rooftop said, "That's not amazing." They said, "That's Uncle Charlie. He said he was going to cut this grass come hell or high water." So, tragedy hits in a lot of different ways, and it always springs life. One tragedy is an opportunity for someone else. So when I see all these things and I see all the people on TV, what's happening with them, I also look at our industry, the remodeling industry, the building industry, people moving. And I always say, wow, somebody's going to be busy for quite a while. And this area's gone through those things too. And I actually thought the storms were going to come this way, and this might not happen, so I'm glad it didn't. But today I'm going to share with you what I have discovered over the years when it comes to sales. Now, I assume everybody in here either touches the customer, has something to do with the customer, is selling the homes, or at some process you're involved with the sale of that home. Would that be a fair assumption? Yes? Okay, as long as I get nods, I don't have to look at somebody and make them stand up and answer me. I can get yeses, I can get amens, any of those kind of things, as long as I know that I'm connecting with you. And so what I'm going to share with you are, I call them tiny secrets, because most of these, when you hear them, you're probably going to think to yourself, I got that. But the question is, do you do that? If you've got salespeople working for you, do they do that? And so, as a kid, I got to work as a magician. And one of the things that I learned getting to work beside other magicians was the more perplexing the magic was and actually fooled somebody, the simpler it was. So the more perplexing it was, the more simple it was. And it's the same in our business. It's easy to look down and figure out, did you ask for the sale? This program is not about closing or asking for the sale. That would be pretty obvious, would it not? Did they ask for the sale or did they not? And a lot of times people say, "Oh, my salespeople, they just don't close. They don't ask for the sale." That's not what I'm going to talk about this morning. What I'm going to talk about are so tiny are the differences between the top producers, the average producers, and the ones that are barely inking by. Barely inking by. And so I'm not going to talk about the big obvious things. I'm going to talk about the small things. So here's what to expect. Our expectations for the next few minutes that we'll share together are what's most important. So let me give you an idea as we think about what are you expecting versus what I'm going to deliver.
Das hier ist mein Sektor. Das hier ist das wichtigste Gerät des Business. Das ist das Überlebensradar.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard. about?
So, expectations will deliver the right results as long as we know where we're headed. So, now we're going to talk about the tiniest little things that will cost you business and cost your salespeople. And if you're the salesperson, it'll cost you. Tiny, small habits, tiny little secrets that will lead you to what I see as making the conversations with these customers that have huge payoffs. These 7 tiny differences, if you implement all of them in your presentations with a customer, are going to make a huge difference. Slight modifications that will make a big difference in what you're doing. Tweaks, tunes for today's market. Do you think today's market is different than it was 5 years ago? Do you think buyers are different today? Do you think they see different? What do you think the difference between today's buyer and maybe just 5 years ago was? Do they come in with more information? Somebody was telling me yesterday, I told them where I was coming and what I was doing. They says, well, with the big builders, I guess the little builders and medium builders are kind of almost out of business nowadays, aren't they? And I said, actually, that's what gives the small to medium-sized builders their fuel, or the big builders when they come in. This organization was not built on the big companies. You know what it was built on? The small to medium builders. Those are the ones that have the real opportunity to make penetration into the market. There are a lot of buyers who won't buy from just a big stock builder that are looking for a small custom builder, or just a small builder that can still be a production builder but a smaller company. So these tweaks and tunes will take you there faster and quicker than not doing them. Just creating a few small habits. And like I said, as I go through these, they're going to almost be no-brainers. But remember what I told you I learned as a magician? The easier it was to see it, the harder it was to believe it. But believe me, it's taken me years to discover not what it takes to close a deal, because I've closed a lot, but what are the tiny things that take people from not being able to do that. And so first things first, I want you to do this. Now everybody has to participate. And if you don't, I have to come down and talk to you. You know, ask you to stand up, come up on stage with me, all those kind of things. So we're good, right? Yes. Oh, yes, we get good participation on that one. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how you see yourself as a good closer. So just think for a second in your head how you see yourself as a good closer. And by the way, if you say, well, I'm not a closer, I'm not in sales, you are in sales. If you're in this room, if you took the time to come to this session that says 7 tiny reasons to close more deals, you're in sales at some point. So just think for a second what that number is. Now, you won't get to whisper it to somebody else because you're by yourself. But the rest of you, I just want you to kind of look at the person sitting next to you. You can just kind of show them your number, but let them know what your number was. Real quick, everybody, let somebody else next to you, let them know what your number was. You can write it on a piece of paper and show it to them, set it back down. Has everybody done that? Rated yourself as a closer? Here we go. Who rated themselves as a 5? The reason I make you tell somebody is so nobody can lie. Okay, we got a couple of 5s in here. Very good. Who rated themselves as a 6? Got a few more 6s. Very good. How about a 7? Who did a 7? Oh, we got a lot at 7. How about 8? Got a few more at 8. How about 9? How about 10? Got one 10 in the back. How about 11? You see, do you think this will guide me for the next few minutes? Yes. You're exactly right. It will guide me for the next few minutes. My presentation will be different for the next few minutes based on just the responses that you just gave in the last few minutes. Education is not the learning of the facts, but it's the training of the mind and a way to think. The difference between the guys who are making the big bucks, the medium bucks, and the little bucks typically boils down to one thing. It's right here. And so what I'm going to share with you in the next few minutes are just some different ways to think. And by the way, if you hear me say something and you go, that guy's not from around here, He don't know the customers. Yeah. I was in New York a few years ago with my daughter, and I spoke to a crowd, and everybody came up to me and said, "We love your accent." My daughter said, "What are they talking about, Dad? You don't have an accent." I said, "Baby, we got accents up here, and they are crystal clear to this New York audience, believe me. But I know your customers. I've met your customers, and I know what they think like, what they feel like, and what they're looking for. So what I'm going to share with you in the next few minutes, if you hear something and you think, that wouldn't work for me, that's exactly the one you need to make sure you write down on a piece of paper. It's exactly the one you need to focus on, because the one that makes you the most uncomfortable that I'm about to share with you will be the one that will be the most powerful for you. So let's look at tiny reason number 1. Hope and optimism. You see, this is one of the tiniest reasons. People want to deal with their customers, and they want to believe that everyone is a potential buyer. Have we heard that one? Everybody coming in is a potential buyer. Got to treat them right. We need to give the full attention to these people that we can and tell everybody the same story, because everybody deserves the full thing. You see, that's what a lot of times we come in with. When here is the reality. Not everyone is a buyer. We know that, right? I mean, if everybody was a buyer, what would we be doing here? But a lot of times, I've watched a lot of speakers get up on a stage and say, you got to think like everybody's a buyer. And that ain't the way we got to think. Now, everybody has the potential to be a buyer. And when we think about it, it's a possibility. But here's what I've learned from when I say top producers, I'm talking about the men and women who knock it out of the ballpark. They will tell you real quick, you got nosy neighbors, you've got investors, you've got the other guys. Who are the other guys? Who are the other guys? Okay, I heard it. What was the word again, gentlemen? Competition. Here's lesson out of the box that's not on the slides. Eliminate that word from your vocabulary. It was okay just now. But why do we eliminate that word from our vocabulary? They're not like us. That's a good one. What else? You noticed I didn't say the competition. I called them what? The other guys. So when you have a customer that comes in and they go, well, now your competition is doing this. Or will you match your competition? You don't say, we don't have competition. Never do that. Never say, we don't have competition, because you know what that customer will do? They'll what?
Walk away and leave.
They have a potential of doing that, yes. But when they leave, you know what they're going to want to do? Yeah, they're going to want to prove you wrong and say you do have competition. So all you're going to do is help convert their language by calling them the other guys. Oh yeah, I'm familiar with that group. Oh yeah, I'm familiar with those people down the street. Oh, I'm familiar with the other guys. Yeah, I know that company. I never will say their name, and I will never call them what? Competition. I watch TV. Watch this on commercials when you get a chance. When we leave here today and you're home, if you watch it, watch what some of the TV commercials do. They'll say, none of our other competitors will do this. And if you shop our competitors, you'll see this. And I'm going, I could make a fortune going talking to these guys, going, why would you refer to somebody who can match or do as good and possibly better than you? Just eliminate it. Give them another name. The other guys, those people down the street, those folks, yeah, those people, I know them. And guess what? Within a few minutes, that's what they'll call them. They won't call them competition anymore. There's also the dreamers. They come in shopping and looking and redecorators. And the reality is they are time wasters. Do you want to give 1 hour, 2 hours of your time when possibly a buyer may have come in right behind them? Here's what top producers tell me day in and day out, and I've watched them. They'll spend time with certain people, but they realize when to cut it short and move to the real buyers. Those people that have done what needs to be done come in and they're real buyers. They give them that extra attention. And so I think the key that I want you to leave with here today is you don't have to believe I got to give everybody the same thing every time, because you don't. Certain people get more of some things, certain people get less of some things, depending on where they are and what they're doing. Just like when I started this morning, I asked you the question. I said, do you think that'll change my presentation? Your answers. Do you? Yes, it does. Especially when I saw that most of you had your hands up at about a 6 and a 7. So makes me want to ask real quick, why are you not at a 10 or why are you not at 11? If you're going to get in front of a customer, if you're going to take time with a customer, oh, I got to tell my mother to quit calling me during these things. But, yes, Mom, I'm busy. Call me back. We just have to realize crystal clearly that we give the time to those that deserve it so that we can close the right people. Top producers don't waste their time with tire kickers. Does that make sense? And in order to do that, you've got to have a balance. Let me give you a quick example of knowing whether you got a buyer or not. We'll have a little fun here. Are we ready? Remember, there's a lesson here, or I wouldn't be showing it. I still love this every time I watch it. Now, I know that's a little walk down old lane listening to stuff, but did anybody get something out of this? I didn't just bring it for entertainment. When I watched it, I said, I gotta have this in my program. Did anybody get anything out of it? That's the sound effects I bring with me everywhere. Here's what I've got. Of course, they asked for the sale several times, didn't they? But what did they not realize? They didn't qualify him by any means. They didn't ask him any questions. They just set him down and expected him to buy. They didn't realize that he was not a prospect to begin with. He was just there for the show, and that was it. And that's what happens a lot of times. You see, serious buyers have done their homework when they come into our offices. They usually wouldn't be there if they haven't. And so while we should have the answers for them, serious buyers have a definite time frame that they're looking to buy something. And so when we are doing proper qualifying up front by asking questions, and it's as simple as this: may I ask you a couple of questions so that I can serve you well? It's as simple as that. But a lot of times people just feel like they've got to go right into the builder's story. They've got to go right into who they are, why they're great and wonderful, when all of that is irrelevant if we don't know what the buyers are looking for. Buyers, the real buyers already have credit scores. They know their down payments, their pre-approval letters. They've brought them with them. Serious buyers ask detailed questions. How many of you, when you have dealt with a customer, can feel up front a lot of times in the first 5 minutes, I've got a good one here? How many of you can feel that? I see a few hands going up. You can feel it. And that's when we want to make sure phones are turned off. We want to make sure that we're giving them the right attention, because typically those first few minutes will definitely be the indicators of where you're going to go in the next few minutes with these customers. And you just don't want to prejudge what they're doing. It's about having a balance. I said that earlier. It's about having a balance of where do we go and where do we stop, and what happens when we get, this is always a big question that comes in from builders agents, what happens when I get 2 or 3 people at one time? Because we all know that on Sunday afternoon at 2:30, they all come in at about the same time, do they not? They just all seem to back up on us. And so it's the ability to balance that and spend our time wisely with the people that deserve that time. Tiny reason number 2 is perks, incentives, price incentives, closing costs, and bonuses. Here's the reality. A lot of times customers are teetering on the edges, but if we don't understand what the urgency factor is, if that has not been instilled with that customer what it is, closing is when you help them get off the fence. Here's the biggest problem I watch with salespeople, and I've watched a lot over the years, a lot of them. If they're not on the fence, guess what? If they're not on the fence or ready to buy, the incentives will not close the deals for you. But a lot of people believe that by putting those incentives out there and keep pounding them with the incentives will close the deal. But the incentives do not close the deal if they have not made it to the fence. In other words, help the customers take that leap, if you would, to what it takes to buy when? Today versus tomorrow. Remember, I love this slide. The turtle didn't get up on the top of that fence by himself. Who got him there? Somebody. In our case, that represents the buyer. And we have gotten that buyer up there, so now it's just a matter of which way are they going to fall. How many of you have actually been there with a customer, if you're in sales, and you've been there when the customer you felt like was right there? One more question would determine whether they buy or say, I want to think about it and go home and sleep on it. How many of you have been there? If you've dealt with a customer, you've dealt with that issue. And so that's where the reality and the truth, if you would, comes out. Monthly specials and incentives can kill your business if they're not used properly. And they are there to help the customer get over the fence and to bring them in. It's not about the gimmicks. And a lot of times builders will look at the other guys to see what they're doing, or the other companies, and they will bring incentives on just to, quote unquote, compete. Here's my favorite saying. What's a few $1,000s? When do you think I might use that phrase? I don't expect you to know the answer, but when might I consider using that phrase? Here we go. This special that we're running, the $10,000 off, the free refrigerator, the free fencing we're putting in, or whatever the incentive is, ends on Sunday night at midnight. If you're not running specials to create urgency, you are killing yourself. They have to be there. But when Sunday at midnight comes, they have to be adhered to. Do they have Costco here? Is there a Costco nearby? Has anybody in here been to Costco and seen where something is on sale today and you go back 3 or 4 days later and it's not on sale? Been there? What happens if you go to the manager and say, hey, this merchandise that you had over here was on sale. Can I get that price? Do you think you'll get it? Do you think you'll get it? Anybody? Especially when I say anybody, how about those who don't even shop at Costco? Do you think you'll get it? Those that shop at Costco know the answer. What's the answer? No, you're not going to get it. They'll say, I'm sorry. It's not me. It's what? The computer won't let me do it. I love that answer. The computer won't let me do it. Kind of reminds me, one day I stopped at a burger place. And the lady was taking the order. You know, she had the microphone. You could see the kitchen in the back. And I said, I want my burger this way, and if you could get him to do this and this. And she said, sir, I'm sorry, the computer won't let me do that. I said, well, I can show you how to do it. And she said, what? I looked up and I looked at the guy in the kitchen and said, hey, man, can you do my burger this, this, and this? He said, I got you, boss man. I said, see there, we don't need the computer. But at Costco, you won't get to do that. They won't give you the price. So if you set an incentive, you need to stick with it. And here's the beauty of sticking with it. It's Sunday. You've got a couple that's in there looking. They say to you, we're not quite ready to make the decision. Here's the answer I like to give. It's not a problem. We'll be here tomorrow. We'll be here next week. We've been here for years. You can come back at any time. What's a few $1,000s if you get to take your time and make your decision the way you like to do it? Can anybody put yourself in that position of the customer for just a moment and imagine what the customer might say? What's a few $1,000s? What do you think a customer might say to that? Anybody want to take a stab at it? Hey, wait a minute. That's my money. A few $1,000s is important to me. I work hard for it. But yeah, but you get to think about it. And again, we're going to be here tomorrow. Watch the magic that happens. We're going to be here tomorrow. We're going to be here next week. We're going to be here next month. What's a few $1,000s? And they say, well, will the special still be going? You're on target. I don't even like to verbally answer it. I just kind of look at them. Like ask me. Say, John, will the special still be going tomorrow?
John, will the special still be going tomorrow?
Do I even need to say anything? Do you think the customer in their mind, what do you think the next words out of their mouth might be? When I just stand and look at them and you say, will the special be going tomorrow? And I go, say it louder.
Probably not.
You see where her mind went? The mind will always go to the worst situation. It's just inevitable. I didn't have to say a word. Now, where is it more powerful? Coming from me saying, no, it won't be, or coming from the customer saying, probably not because I didn't open my mouth? Which one is more powerful? The customer. So it's a real simple way of presenting it. I love to set the deadline. I love when the customer's there and says, we're not ready to make a decision. I love to say, don't worry about it. We'll be here tomorrow. What's a few $1,000s? The customer says, well, that's a lot of money to us. Well, you can always come back. Well, what about the price? Will it still be the same? Let the customer do the heavy lifting. Let the customer do the heavy lifting. They will say, does that mean probably not? I go, I think you're smart enough to get it. So that's how strong that one tiny phrase can be standing in front of a customer without putting pressure on them, without pushing them, letting the pressure build from within by them going, maybe we should go ahead. And you can say, well, you can put a deposit down, you can make a reservation and always get out of it, but the special will end today. And so it's all about the investment of time with our customers today. Our job, if you're dealing with that customer and you're out in the field in any fashion, shape, or form, is to do one thing, is to accelerate the home buyer's habit. And when I say accelerate, that means for them to buy when versus tomorrow. That's our only job. That's the only difference. When I was in the field selling, that was the only difference I had, was accelerating the habit. You're not going to push somebody who's not ready. You're not going to convince somebody to spend $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 or $1 million who's not ready and doesn't want it. I can't teach you that. Nobody from the platform can teach you that. No book can teach you that. But they can tell you how to find out where the people are ready and accelerate where they are going to be into a faster mode. That's really all we want to do, is to help accelerate the process. Tiny reason number 3 is, and I hear this all the time, these simple words: I'm sorry, we can't do that. I'm sorry, we don't offer that. I'm sorry, we just closed for the day. I'm sorry, that home is already sold. I'll never forget, I pulled up at I think World Bazaar or one of those stores, you could pull up and go in the store. And it was almost 9 o'clock one evening. And I pulled up right at the front door, and I saw somebody walking to the door. I'm sitting in the front with my headlights on, just pulled up. They walked up to the door and put the key in the door. And I just heard this little sound going through my head, and it went like this. They looked at me and I looked at them. I'm thinking, I'm here to walk in your store. They stared at me for a moment. And I had my hand on the key. As I turned it off, my lights went off. Click! The door clicked and off they went. And I thought, that's definitely not the owner of the store, and it's probably not the manager of the store, because they wouldn't do it. They see the customer just pulled up to walk in. There's the difference. Just not there to serve the customer. This is a big difference, because the truth is, the pros, the top producers, never apologize for any part of the process. I'll take care of that. Don't worry about it. Let me see what I can find out for you. They just don't use the word sorry, because they've got nothing to be sorry for. They are there to be a fixer and a problem solver. It's as simple as it gets. And when it gets right down to it, it's their expectations to realizing that that's what they're looking for. You see, I don't believe today's customers want to be wowed anymore. They want to be overwhelmed. They want to talk to somebody who looks them in the eye. They want to talk to somebody who understands where they're coming from. They want to meet somebody who understands where they are. They don't want to hear, I'm sorry, I can't do that. We don't offer that. We can't do those things. Some of those may be actual realities, but there's a way around everything to make a customer happy when you truly want to do it. There's always a way to do it. Customers expect you to resolve whatever problem they bring to it. Do you know they can find a better place to buy than what you have? Does everybody accept that? They can find it. The question is, do you let them go find it? Do you believe that people will buy just because they like you? A lot of times they will. I go to buy a car. I'll tell the salesperson right there, I said, let me just tell you this right up front. If I shop your price, I'll still buy from you even if you're a little higher, because I like you. I like your location. But if you take the price too high on me and you play too many games, I will go elsewhere. So I'm willing to pay a little more. I am willing to pay a little more for convenience, trustworthiness, and the fact that I like doing business with you. How many of you are there? How many of you would pay a little more for somebody that will save you time, money, and energy? They'll do the same for you. You do not have to be the lowest priced product on the block. You don't have to constantly be shaving to compete with who? There, guys. Okay, I'm glad something's getting through here. to compete with the other guys. You don't have to be the lowest guy on the block. You can be at a different price level. You noticed I didn't say you could be what? Cheaper. You don't have to say those words. It's just a simple matter of semantics. Not apologize for them. Customers expect you to make things easy for them. There's the difference. Easy for them. Do you think I'm in sales doing what I do here? Do you think people call me and want to know what I do, what I can deliver, how much does it cost? And do you think they can find somebody less expensive than me? Can they find somebody more expensive than me? Yes. I'll share with you just an insider secret. I've gotten a lot of jobs in other countries, and I've worked in a lot of other countries, which I think has really helped me round out my perspectives of what I do in the industry, because I've been in the housing industry all my life. My father was an SOB, so that makes me the son of a builder. And so that's an old one. If anybody's laughing at that one, that's the oldest one in the book. But the reality is we are out there to take care of those customers. And when we do that, the lowest price doesn't always mean everything to them. They don't mind paying a little more to get a little more, because the reality is you're not more if you give more. The question is do they understand it? By not offering excuses for what you can't do, and customers expect you to address those pain points right up front, not sidestep any part or any component about what it is they're doing. They expect you to deliver the results and not shy away from the so-called responsibility of what it takes to bring them to the table and make them happy. I can tell you, I'm glad to pay more to get more. And most customers today are glad to pay more to get more. Just remember, you got to deliver. If you're going to do it, you got to take charge. Here's something that I love. I have a friend of mine that wrote a book about how to be ridiculously easy to do business with. So there's where you want to be. You want to be ridiculously easy to do business with. A lot of companies today are not going in that direction. A lot of companies, things change. Things are changing. You got to sign one more form. You got to do this. So we don't do that anymore. People like a nice, familiar surprise to the way they're doing business. Familiar meaning good old-fashioned way of doing with them. Surprise, you bring something unique to the table. It's called a familiar surprise. So if you're able to do that, you're able to bring more customers in. I see so many different things traveling around the world that I really love. And then I see some things and I don't understand how they haven't gotten with the new world with certain things. The most important, focused, confident person in the room is the one that's going to win every time. It's just knowing your product inside out, knowing what the other guys are doing, knowing what the customers are looking for, and constantly being focused. And I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. Tiny reason number 4 is something I call the time trap. Remember, and by the way, have any of the things that I've shared with you so far, have they been startling? The question is, are you doing them? Remember, these are the tiny little differences that make a big difference in our business. These are not the big brainstorms. These are the underlying things. My dad said if you want to do business with a big company, and remember, the smart salesman's going in and talking to the janitor to find out what kind of floor cleaner he's using, to find out, is it good, is it bad, so that when he gets the appointment upstairs, he already's done his homework. The customers want to know that we've done our homework. The time trap. This is an important one. But what about my off days? I'll be on vacay that week. I'm sorry. I'm off the clock. That'll have to wait. If I have to hear any of these phrases anymore from salespeople, I'm wondering why they don't fire them. I'll be honest with you. I just can't quite put up with it. I have a few builders. I have one builder who's a good friend of mine who actually worked for me before he became a builder. He was in sales. And he's grown up in the sales side. He built a house, he built 2 houses, he built 10. Now he builds about 100 houses a year. Good times and bad times, he's done pretty well. You got any idea what his secret sauce is as I'm talking to you right now? He understands sales. He also understands how to build a house, but he came up understanding how to sell a home because that's what he did. And so these phrases were never part of his language. But do you know he will call me on a Sunday night at 8 o'clock, how you doing, what's going on? Hey, let me ask you something. What causes people to say that's got to wait? What causes people to say that's my day off? He said, I never had a day off. I never make people wait. It's Sunday. Can I get the keys to my new home? Oh, I'm off today. Can I get them to you tomorrow? Somebody who's in the world of sales doesn't say that to a customer. And so the 9 to 5 doesn't really exist in this business. I can tell you the most successful people look at this and they just internally they smile and they think to themselves, not a reality. The 9 to 5ers make the 9 to 5 pay. Here's the reality. You want to be out and ahead of the curve. And here's a factor that I know to be a true fact in this industry. It's called the 25-8-366 factor. Anybody got any idea what the 25-8-66 factor could be? Do I have anybody that lives that life? I see a few hands. Then you understand. You understand what 25-8-366 is. It's real simple. A lot of times we've got people that are working for us, and sometimes it's ourselves that feel overworked, underpaid, worked like a dog 7 days a week. I used to say that to my father. I've been working like a dog, and he said, dogs don't work. And I said, why did I have to say that to him? Dogs don't work. And, you know, I love this quote from Denzel Washington. Do what you have to do what you want to do. That's really what it's about for us. We didn't get in this business to work 7 days a week like a dog. We got into this business to take care of customers, do something we like, but it's a commitment of what we are doing and what needs to be done to close the deal. It's about changing what we do here, even if it's a Sunday or a fun day. The ability to answer customers crystal clearly in their questions, to take a quick call. I don't mind sharing this with you. My daughter works for a home builder now. I'm a little irritated with her because I don't get any time with her. Dad, I got an agent calling me. Dad, I got to go. Dad, I don't have time. I wonder, did I do that when she was a kid? I know she saw every model home south of the Mason-Dixon line from the time she was 1 year old, because anytime we pass through a community, I say, I got to stop and look at this product. I'm looking at the salespeople. I'm seeing what they're doing. I didn't write 13 books about sales and marketing in our industry by just waking up one morning. It was watching what the salespeople do, seeing how they close, see the questions that they ask. You know, the customer will tell you what it takes to close them if you'll just listen to them. Most of the time, we're just not listening to them. We're too busy trying to get something out of our mouth. But to just take that quick call, my daughter gets it. I mean, on a Sunday, she's taking calls. On a Saturday night, she's in Europe as I'm speaking to you right now, and she'll still take calls while she's there because she understands they need her and she needs to close these deals. But I know people. When that vacation stops, so does that phone. Look, I'm not here to criticize you if you do it. I'm just here to give you an insight. The people who are successful in this building do not turn these things off. I've had people say, do you ever just relax and turn your phone off? And I said, never. I was about to tell you something a minute ago about my business. The reason I've gotten most of the foreign business that I have, because when I get there, and I've gone to places like Poland, Mexico, Brazil, Jamaica, I always ask, if I'm having dinner with somebody, I'll say, let me ask this, how did you decide to do business with me? Because I know you had a lot of choices. I met you at the Builders Show, so I know you got to hear a lot of different speakers before you decided and called me to come to your country. You'll never believe what 9 out of 10 times the answer was. It was what?
You picked up the phone and answered my call.
Say it louder.
You picked up the phone.
I picked up the phone. When I called them back, either I picked it up or I called them back, same thing. They said, I said, this is John Palumbo, and they go, this is you? Or I said, this is me. They said, you called us back. All the other people had somebody else call us back. We couldn't believe you took the time to call us back. And so the fact that I would simply call them back and talk to them, they said, that's the reason we chose you. You took the time to talk to us. I didn't send somebody else to do it. And so it's not that somebody else can do your job, but it's the time to pick up the phone. It's still a valuable tool. Texting is good. Sending emails are good. Everybody has a preferred way of communicating. But the phone, This old-fashioned piece of equipment is still one of the number one ways to get the final touch in with a customer that needs it, is for them to hear your voice, ask a few of the right questions. And I can tell you, it's still the golden chalice for me in dealing with customers, is the ability to talk to them in person. And so it's ready to do a quick email. And yes, even when they're on an airplane, and I'm on an airplane a lot, I'm answering things, it's the ability to respond to a text 24 hours a day. Now here's the real thing. If you're listening to me now going, man, this guy's, this is hardcore stuff. He's saying, write, communicate, do all this stuff 24 hours a day. It's a mentality. That's all it is. It's not a physical commitment. It's just a mentality. It's about working smarter, not harder. I travel a lot. I go to a lot of different countries. And I'm still in touch with people all over the world 7 days a week, just because I take a moment to do it. That's all it boils down to. It's a balance of life and work together to get where we want to go with people. I'm going to share with you something that, for me, this is how I live. And maybe you might relate to it just a little bit. The master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his information and his recreation, his love and his religion. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether he's working or playing. To him, he's always doing both. That's when you love what you do. They don't know. And I still get asked that. Are you here working or are you here playing? Here's my favorite answer. I'm here half pleasure and half fun. I can tell who's listening to me. When they go, oh, okay. They don't realize I just said the same thing. Half pleasure, half fun. They go, oh, that's good. Every now and then somebody will get it and they'll laugh, and I realize they were listening to what I said. But do you love what you're doing? If so, you adopt some of these tiny reasons. The golden hour. The golden hour is, I believe, what can make the difference between whether a company stays in business or goes out of business. Whether a salesperson ends the year incredibly good or just making an average income. Here's what the golden hour is about. If you're in management, you're going to understand this. If you're a builder or developer, you're going to understand this. If you're in sales, you might look at me and go, Are you ready?
Yes.
Just like to make sure. The office, how many of you, give me a quick idea of what time an office might open in your area for business. Quick number. What time? 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. So those are usually the answers, 8, 9, or 10. And closing at what time? 5, 6, somewhere in that neighborhood. Here's one of these fascinating things about life. There is a cult of people who come 1 hour before you're open. And there's another cult of people who come 1 hour after you close. I've been in the offices because I would have to get in early to get the office up and running, and I would stay late to do reports and other things. I love this one. It's 5:30. The office is closed and the salespeople are gone. And I see this. What's happening? Somebody's looking in the window of the door. I'm thinking to myself, don't they know we're closed? I walk to the door, I open it, I say, hello, are you still open? Has anybody ever had that? Are you still open? Well, the door's locked and the lights are off, but that's the way we do business all the time. We leave the door locked and the lights off. That makes people want to get in to see us. But I would look at them and go, yeah, we're open. We're still here. And they go, oh, great. I would talk to them within an hour and have a sale. The sales team would come in the next morning and go, when did this get sold? I said, last night. When did this get sold? I sold it early this morning. If you're in this business, how many of you understand there's a group of people that come outside of those normal business hours that are working different times, that are going home at different times, and will come into your office? Who has experienced that? Oh, almost every hand in the room goes up. So it's not a secret, it's a reality. And if you're not paying attention to it, you're losing business in this golden hour before and after you come to work. And if the sales team doesn't understand it, they're losing business. It's like seeing a car driving through the neighborhood 15 minutes after you're closed or you're locking the models up. And you just look at them. You're kind of hoping they don't see you because they might want to ask some questions about the model home you just locked up, right? And they go by. Versus the pro walks out, just kind of waves at them and says, "Can I answer a question? We're not closed yet. Were you looking?" And makes a sale because they simply introduced themselves. That didn't mean they got out in the middle of the road and did this. It just means they asked if they could answer any questions. The golden hour, I call it that because it is truly, truly, truly an hour worth of gold on both sides of that time frame. So whether it's you or whether it's somebody on your team, I hope you'll pay attention to it because it can make the difference. Tiny reason number 5 is giving the tour, showing people around, letting them know everything that's going on. And here's the reality. Here's the truth behind just giving the tour of your community or of your model home. Oh, I got to pick up milk. Oh, man, I got to meet my friends. It's getting close to happy hour. I got to get on out of here and get this stuff locked up. Or, oh man, I'm left too late. There's too much traffic going on. This cost us money, not doing this one thing when we get in front of the customer. And I call it clearing the decks. It's real simple. If you don't walk out here with anything other than learn how to simply clear the decks, that means simply pay attention. Let me give you a good analogy of when I say pay attention to the customer and what's going on. Everybody familiar with this show? Wheel of Fortune. Who is this? Vanna White. Look what she's looking at. What is she looking at? She's looking at the letters. She's moving them. She's looking at the letters. Fair enough? Who is this? Pat Sajak, the host of the show. What is he looking at? He's looking at the people. Here is the reality in our industry. We have to give 100% undivided attention. We have to focus with that customer. But I'm going to show you a way to focus so hard that it will be the easiest thing you've ever done. There's things called idiomotions, micro-expressions, subtle clues, and body language. We've all heard about body language. If they're doing this, what? That means that they possibly are not wanting to do anything. They're closed off. Or it could just mean they're cold. So you can't determine that. But here's something I want to share with you. 93% of all communications are non-verbal. Here's the most important one. It's called let me show you again, idiomotions and micro-expressions. When you clear the decks, when you give complete, undivided attention to the person you're dealing with, they are going to tell you exactly what it takes to do business with them. And it's done in such a simple way that I'm not going to have to teach you any of it. I'm just going to tell you how to access it. And that's all you have to do is learn how to access it. What are you looking for? Buying signals. Remember a question I asked you earlier? How many of you know within the first 5 minutes you've got a live one or you've got a deadbeat? How many of you can sense it or feel it? And by the way, skip the first 5 minutes. Let's move on through the presentation. How many of you can tell when you're getting close to the end, you've got a buyer? How many of you can feel that? I think these people are really good prospects. You can feel it. There's a reason you can feel it. And this person is going to tell you exactly what it does to help them. The intuition, that sixth sense inside of you. And when you clear the decks and you're not worried about picking up the milk, meeting your friends for happy hour, and you're able to simply clear the decks, it's kind of like speed dating. I think it's a thing that's kind of come and gone. It may still be out there. But they used to have people come into a room like this, and you would talk to somebody for 5 minutes, the bell would ring, you'd move on until you found somebody you like. How do you think you know who you want to go out with after just 4 or 5 minutes of talking to somebody? They give off idiomotions. The senses, the eyes, the lips, the ears, they give them off, and they tell you exactly where a person is. You can't see them unless you're trained. By the way, FBI agents, CIA agents, they go through this training for months to learn how to tell when someone's lying, when someone's telling the truth, no matter what the words are coming out of their mouth. They learn how to look for the expressions that a person can't hide. If you're married, if you've got kids, your kids ever wonder how do they know you're lying? How do you know they're lying? You can look in their faces. They haven't learned to control it yet, have they? They learn how to look around. They learn how to do all these other things. But we can tell when somebody's not being honest with us. It's done because our face and our body language gives off the clues. If your deck's clear, if you've cleared everything here and you're paying attention, and you give them the attention they deserve, you'll know where they are because they'll send the signals to you. So instead of us spending 6 weeks learning micro expressions, I just gave you what it takes. You just have to focus on the customer. You just have to give them your eyes, your attention, your time. Let me give you an example right now. If I continue this program now, I want you to tell me for the next few minutes if you're feeling connected to me or if you're not feeling connected to me. Like right this minute I'm talking. Do you feel the same connection with me right now that you had just a few minutes ago? Anybody? No. Why are you not feeling the connection? But I'm still here. I'm still out here, aren't I? But does that make a difference in what I got to say right now?
Yes.
See, I speak to one, but I talk to all. Just by simply stopping for a moment, am I back with you? Am I back with you?
Yeah.
Do you see what the difference is? Do you think that I'm reading you while you're trying to figure out what I'm saying or what I've got to say? Do you think I'm reading you? Do you think that your emotions, the way you look, the way you focus, guide me with the next few words that are going to come out of my mouth every few minutes? This presentation is not the same for everybody. I can gauge it by just looking. But you see how quickly I disconnected by not looking at you? It happens out there in the real world too. There is a spark between people, and we either get it or we don't. We either get it or we don't. Tiny secret number 6 is using the wrong words. The wrong words. The right words. Here we go. If you become an owner, how about this one? If you choose to move here, if you're ready to move forward, we can go ahead and do some business. If you decide this home is for you, how do those sound? How do they sound? I didn't get any responding answers. And there's a reason why. Because here's the truth. I'm sounding like an iffy agent. I said if, maybe, possibly. It's amazing the words we use, we don't analyze them to look at them. How about this? Let's do the same thing. When you become an owner, once you decide to move here, when you're ready to move forward, do you see the difference the same quotes mean by just changing the word if to as if? As an owner, you will enjoy these benefits. Do you see what just the slight tweak and tune in words actually do to how you're perceived? How you're perceived. I wrote a book called Highly Persuasive. And that book was born in a conversation I had with my daughter. We were sitting there one day and something came up and I got off the phone and she had a question. I said, Morgan, do you know what it is I do? She goes, yes, Dad. People call you, they get your opinion, and then they pay you. And I said, close, but not quite. They don't want my opinion. They want my perspective. I said, opinions Everybody's got them, and nobody really wants my opinion on anything. What they pay for is my perspective. I said, you want to be successful? You have a healthy perspective. You pay attention to what's going on in the world. You know what relevance is happening in the world around you. Everything from global down to micro. So you can have conversations with people, intelligent conversations. And your perspective becomes balanced. If people see that you have a balanced perspective, then they will render what to you? Their opinions. We want to hear their opinions while we give them our perspective. So here's what I'm here to share with you today. Not an opinion on what you need to do, but to give you some new perspectives of what to do. And that conversation, I sat down and I said, that's pretty good stuff. How many of you have ever done that? How many of you have ever had a customer, had a conversation, and you said, damn, that was good what just came out of my mouth? You ever had that happen? Here's the difference. Here's how I wrote 13 books. I write down all that good stuff. I say, man, that's good. I find anything to write it down on the back of a plane ticket, a napkin, anything. I write it down so I don't forget it, because what gets recorded gets rewarded. And there's the difference. I write down the good little ideas. I write down if I have a conversation with a customer. Stuff jumps out of our mouth when we're least expecting it, because our resources are put to the test and challenged regularly, are they not? Everybody in here, I saw you nod when I said, how many of you have said something and said, damn, that was good, and then you didn't use it ever again? It's because you didn't stop for a moment, write it down. I already said 2 things in here that I said, damn, that's good. I just didn't stop to write it down. Don't bother me when I'm finished, because I got to write down 2 things. Afterwards, I can answer any question for you want. But tiny reason number 7. Are y'all getting some good reasons here? Tiny but good? Good. The script. The script. You got to learn the script. You got to know the script. You got to be able to give it to people. Just like that, you need to write that script down. The game plan. It's got to be rigid, by the book, structured, rehearsed, and be precise. Have any of you ever heard somebody tell you that? No room for errors or mistakes. You got to be perfect at it. But here's the truth. Plan B always works better than Plan A ever thought about being. How many of you find yourself shifting from Plan A regularly to Plan B when you least expect it? We all do. It's become one of my favorite sayings. Except for yesterday. Somebody said, well, did you get out to go to South Carolina? And I said, for once, Plan A worked. The airport didn't close and Delta took off on time. Plan A worked. It's very unusual. Usually it's Plan B. I'm trying to figure out how to jump another airline. I was prepared to drive up here yesterday. You know, I told you I came from Florida, so we didn't know whether the airport would be open or closed. And I had my gas tank full, and I was ready to get on the highway. That's Plan B. But Plan A worked. Unusual. Spontaneous, casual, relaxed, authentic, uninhibited, and natural. I like to say organic. Customers want something that's more organic today than rehearsed. Are you feeling that? Are you getting in front of people that give you mechanically rehearsed answers to things? I had dinner the other night. I asked the waitress, what comes with this? I don't know, hon. Let me see the menu. I can look at it. And I said, ma'am, I've already read the menu. I just need to know what comes with it. She goes, I don't know. I said, thank you for your honesty, but I'll go find out. But, you know, just kind of canned answers to everything. If we don't know it, here's the best part. Customers today appreciate it when you say to them, I don't know. I'm not sure. Let me get an answer for you on that. I can ask somebody right now and get you the answer. They appreciate it rather than us trying to beat our way out of a paper bag to say something that may or may not be relevant or true. And so it's as simple as that. You need to know your product inside out. This is my perspective, to know that product inside out. But I don't know how you can go any further in a presentation without asking somebody about themselves. May I ask you a couple of questions? Where are you from? What do you do? Hey, here's the big one. If you want to know, if you want to leave here today with one key question, why now? Why are you looking now? Not what have you looked at, what do you need, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms. The key question that will unlock the universe for you with every customer is why now? Those are going to be your deal makers and deal breakers. I'm getting a divorce. I'm getting married. We're having a baby. Mama's moving in. Daddy's moving in. Mama and daddy's moving in, but they get in separate bedrooms. You know, everything's got a reason, but why now will be the key element that it takes to guide you to where you need to be of when and how you're going to close that transaction. Plan B allows you to improvise. I'm a Plan B thinker. Plan A is sort of, it's got to be there, but Plan B has hindsight. Plan A doesn't have any hindsight. Plan B gives you all the hindsight you need, so it's okay. I like this. You can't make a mistake when you improvise. And so it's just as long as you realize over planning kills the magic. Over planning kills the magic. It's just like being here this morning. I've asked you a lot of questions. I'm watching to see if you're laughing, if you're agreeing, if you're not agreeing. Because from there, my presentation takes a little turn a different way with each one of those. Each one of them takes me down a different path to know how to potentially finish the presentation with the message that I feel like I need to deliver in a way that you need to hear it. So here's my message. Forget the script, but know your inside out. It's as simple as that. I've brought something with me today, and if you want to, you can come up and get one, but I do these. It's just a little pocket card that's got the 7 bullet points on it. So when I'm finished, you're welcome to come down and get one, stick it in your pocket. And, you know, I have people that always say, can I have a few of those for my team? And I go, of course you can. But it'll be worthless to them because unless you've heard me this morning, how many do you think when you see number 3 and it says apologizing? What would that mean to anybody that didn't hear what we have to say? But what does it mean to you when I say apologizing? We don't do it, right? We don't apologize. So they're the bullet points for the people that listen to this. This will only make sense to you, somebody who's been here. So you're welcome to have one of these and come down. I'm going to wrap up by letting you watch something that I really think gives a good perspective of where we are and what we do in this business. So here we go.
What makes you itch? What sort of a situation would you like? Let's suppose, I do this often in vocational guidance with students. They come to me and say, well, we're getting out of college and we haven't the faintest idea what we want to do. So I always ask the question, what would you like to do if money were no object? How would you really enjoy spending your life? Well, it's so amazing. As a result of our kind of educational system, crowds of students say, well, we'd like to be painters, we'd like to be poets, we'd like to be writers, because everybody knows they can't earn any money that way. Or another person says, well, I'd like to live an out-of-doors life and ride horses. They say they want to teach in the riding school. Let's go through with it. What do you want? When we finally got down to something which the individual says he really wants to do, I will say to him, you do that. And forget the money. Because if you say that getting the money is the most important, you will spend your life completely wasting your time. You will be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid. Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And after all, if you do really like what you're doing, it doesn't matter what it is, you can eventually turn it, you can eventually become a master of it. The only way to become a master of something is to really with it. And then you'll be able to get a good fee for whatever it is. So don't worry too much. Somebody's interested in everything. Anything you could be interested absolutely stupid to spend your time doing things you don't like in order to go on spending things you don't like and doing things you don't like, and to teach your children to follow the same track. See, what we're doing is we're bringing up children, educated, to live the same sort of lives we live, in order that they may justify themselves and find satisfaction in life by bringing up their children, to bring up their children to do the same thing. So it's all wretched and vomit. It never gets there. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
What do you desire? The question I'd like to leave you with today. I'll be around. If you have questions, I'm glad to answer them. And I want to invite you tomorrow, obviously, to be available for the session tomorrow morning where I will give the keynote speech for the entire conference. This has been a workshop and a class on becoming the unsalesperson. This was a sellout presentation I did at the International Builders Show last year, and it's been one of my best-selling books so far. So I invite you to be here for that. Again, if you would like one of these cards, you're welcome to come up and grab one from me. And other than that, it's been a pleasure getting to speak with you. Thank you so much.